I want to start this video off by saying I'm not thrilled to be making this video. I don't want to make this video. I've been staying here for the past 5 minutes trying to figure out how to make this video because it's a little bit different from some of the other videos that I've made in the past. It's going to have some spoilers from Inside Out too, and it was basically incited because of one, the emotions and feeling that I felt after the movie. And if you saw the movie, you understand what I'm talking about. I'm going to dive into that. And two, I saw somebody on Reddit that also had the exact same outcome that I did. So I'm going to do my best to be able to make it through this whole video without becoming a complete mess. And if I do apologize for that in advance, but it's something that I feel like a lot of us out there are struggling, and sometimes we can't really put a voice to it or have words to it. And seeing the movie Inside Out and watching the emotions of each and every single one of the emotions have their own emotions, and realizing that we ourselves are being controlled by our emotions in certain ways and in certain regards, and that we have our certain sense of self that is who we are, and we want to remain this way as we always have been, as in like I am a good person, or I am this way, or I am that way. And that's the sense of I, your identity, and sometimes that can be your ego as well. When I watched this movie and I read this comment and this post that this guy made was, I, 28 male, straight up burst out into tears watching Inside Out 2 in the cinema last night, and it made me reevaluate my mental health. Spoilers, obviously. I consider maybe mental health. He goes in and he talks about how he was kind of more focused on the 4 words is I'm not good enough, with what anxiety ended up creating. And that wasn't necessarily my main takeaway from the movie. Like, I was more under the impression of this scene right here. And this was what got me, because I feel like a lot of the times we get so into our minds and we start to have these like maybe attacks or personalities where it's just like it seems like the whole world is just crumbling beneath us. And I'm apologize for like the ripped off like YouTube stuff. This was just all I could really find. But it's like when Joy comes in and sees anxiety as like as terrified as anybody else because it created all these other scenarios. This wasn't the part that necessarily got me, but it got this dude on Reddit where he's like, I'm not good enough. And he's like, anything to fix this, multiple minutes of trying something and anything to fix whatever was frightening Riley and a panic attack. Maybe you yourself have had those as well. I ended up writing a little bit to him as well too, and I gave him a couple of books called Psycho-Cybernetics. One is being able to change your identity, and then another one was the 7 pillars of self-esteem. So if you have low self-esteem, highly recommend this book as well. It's really helped me out understand my self-esteem and my issues, along with like meditation. The main thing is that, like, this is what I loved so much was like when Riley was freaking out, and maybe we freak out all the time, or we have freaked out and we forget about these moments. But then this is what brings me the most amount of joy, and why I ended up breaking down, whatever the hell that means, as well in the movie. Trying not to do that right now as well too for you, but it's just like Riley she takes a deep breath in, and this is like this moment right here, dude. It just gets me every time. As it's like, as I've gotten older and as you get older too, you may realize that sometimes your moments of joy, they seem to be non-existent or not occur as often as they once did. The great thing though is I've come to realize that you can always recultivate that joy in some way, shape, or form by being in the present. This is all there is, dude. And this is what I try to convey with the videos and the information, the content, and how I live my life is we can go back to a simpler time. We can go back to the time of just being in the present and not having to worry about this whole experience where you get so upset over your small little things, and you're just using your anger and your frustration because you don't think that you're good enough, and you put all these high standards and stakes on yourself when in actuality you're doing a lot better than you know you are. You're making progress. You're at least stepping out of your box. Like this guy that ended up posting on Reddit and talking about how he's like 28 male straight up burst into tears watching the Inside Out 2 movie last night. This takes courage to do. Like to share this online, like this is a step in the right direction, which a lot of us seem to neglect that because we get so stuck into our heads of thinking about like, I need to be the best. I need to be the best. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not any of these things. And those start to become ingrained in your psyche. They start to become ingrained in who you are as a person. You start to get frustrated, and then all of a sudden you have a panic attack and you have this anxiety attack, and then all of these things start to happen. And it's just like you forget that what really matters is this, like the present moment, this moment right here, and the joy that you can feel from just being here, not worrying about what you have to do in 5 minutes, not worrying what you have to do in 10 minutes, not worrying about what you have to do in other times, because you can even see that in this clip as well too, where anxiety is using joy's imagination. Maybe this is happening to you as well too, is using your imagination against you. And your imagination is the most powerful thing that you have, which is why I love what Joy ends up saying here when she's fighting back and forth with anxiety.
The mind police are on their way. She's using these horrible projections to change Riley. Joy, I'm doing this for you.
Everybody, like, this is the crazy part about the mind and about anxiety, is it'll give you every rational reason to believe that what it is doing is correct, when in actuality, it's not. It believes that it's helping you, but then when you start to use your imagination in positive ways and you let joy back in,
Oh, so Riley can be happier. If you wanted her to be happy, then you'd stop hurting her. Who's with me?
and most of you are probably like those mind police or the ideas within the imagination where you get so constrained and you think about like, you have to make all these big things, but then it just takes that one idea. It's small, and I highly recommend you do the smallest of small ideas.
Really? Nothing? Sorry, a little off topic. Yeah, I see you.
Where you get this.
A cat.
Like, it's not the most on topic idea, but it is still something that is using the imagination in more of a positive way instead of looking at the things that are all going wrong. And as soon as you start to do that and you start to think about these things in a more positive light, it starts to change your whole environment. It has changed mine, and I know it'll change yours too. And sure, there's going to be moments like this as well too.
Gone.
And if Joy can't see that, well, then she's delusional.
Delusional? Of course I'm delusional! You know how hard it is to stay positive all the time when all you folks do is complain, complain, complain! Jiminy, mother, loving toaster strudel! Do you think I have all the answers? Of course I don't!
Dude, like even this, man. You can be the most upbeat, positive person in the entire world. And people are going to call you delusional. They might scold you or scorn you or whatever it may be for being delusional, for being hopeful, for being joyful, for always being optimistic. It's not easy when everybody else around you is complaining about how this isn't working or how that isn't working or how the world's going to whatever and how everything is always against them. And it's just like you're over here just trying to live your life and trying to be in the present moment like Riley was near the end when she just finally decides to just like be present, and you just hear the noises of what is happening right around you instead of creating all these different scenarios like you see here with the anxiety, creating the projections of what could be happening and all these different outcomes that will never truly come to be. And if you can use your mind in this way, in the negative way, why not use your mind in the positive way and be completely delusional? Be somebody that is like, just be delusional. Like, why not?
But I'll take it. Who else? Come on! What if Riley is better than Val and then Val hates her? Or what if Riley is better than Val and Val respects her?
See, and I like the matter of flipping the script is like, well, what if this person doesn't like me because of this? But then again, there's always a reverse side of the coin, as there are with any things. Like dominoes, they have one side and they have another side. Playing cards, they have one side and then they have the other. Coins, they have heads, they have tails. Like everything has an adverse thing. So It's like, well, what if this happens? Well, what if the opposite happened? And start asking yourself those questions. That might be the thing that changes, because as soon as you start doing that, you can start to use the imagination in more positive ways like I do, and you can actually fall asleep, because in all likelihood, this is why you can't fall asleep at night. This is why you're feeling down. This is why you aren't feeling the ways that you want to feel. Is because you're letting anxiety control you. You're letting these false scenarios that are never going to happen, when you could create these scenarios in your head that are what you want to see happen, for what you want to have happen. And sure, it's going to be painful to like let that go, and it's going to take time. It's not going to happen in a 2-hour time frame like it does in the movies. But if you are willing to work on it and you are willing to put in the reps, it will happen. And your sense of self, you can start to change it. You can start to evolve it. You can start to become something new, and you can stop being the dude that's saying like, I'm not good enough. Because if you constantly repeat that to yourself over and over and over again, it's going to become true. So like if you're doing that and you're considered delusional, why not be more somebody that's like, hey, I am amazing. I am powerful. I am worthy. I am capable. I am joyful. I am happy. I am living in the present. And start saying these words on repeat in your mind instead, and it's bound to come true.
We can't even find the back of our own mind.
And too often we put all of our memories, our emotions, our feelings that we don't want to have in the back of our mind. Just like Joy said, like we put it back there because we don't want to feel them at that point in time. And I get it, because sometimes it would be too much for us. We wouldn't be able to overcome those things. But like when you do finally accept those past experiences, like it taught in the first movie as well too, is like you need to have sadness in order to have joy. You have to have anger if you want to have frustration. Like you have to have one with the other. You can't have joy if you don't have sadness, and you can't have sadness if you don't have joy. Like they go hand in hand. And the more you start to realize that, as I have, you can start to become a lot more free. And maybe you didn't tear, maybe you teared up in the same way that this guy did because you don't think that you're worthy or you're good enough. Or maybe you teared up in the way that I did, as where it's just like you get to go back to the present moment. You stop thinking about all these like what ifs and what could happen, what could go wrong. And you start to just be like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I can do today, because that's all I can ever really do. And I can't worry about what's going to happen. What's going to happen is going to happen. It's more about how I react to those things that happen that truly determine the outcome of my life and the places that I'm going to be going. Surprised I made it through that video. I really am. I mean, there's a couple of spots that, I got a little teary-eyed, but it's all part of the process. So, if you guys need more questions, whatever it is, suggestions, I don't know. You can leave a comment or don't leave a comment. Really up to you. I just want to share this because it seemed like somebody else was in a similar boat place. And if they're there, then I have a feeling you're there as well too, because I have been there too.